Hey everybody, it's Brooke with the Buttered Home. Welcome to my messy kitchen. It's summertime and you know what that means? That means I have way too many squash. So we're here today to show you an easy and spicy squash relish recipe that your whole family will love. So stay with us. Okay, so this is a rather lengthy process. So we're going to start the process by taking one sweet onion, and this is about a medium-sized guy. And let me just clean off my surface here and get him prepped and ready. So if you have a mandolin, you can do this with a mandolin, but y'all know I like showing how to do things with no special equipment needed. So we're going to peel that onion, and if you're sensitive to onion, you can leave that root end on to do this. That'll help make it not emit so much and milk so much, but it typically does not bother me. So I just cut both ends off. Now we're going to just thinly slice this onion, and I got a large bowl nearby. Now there are a couple of different ways you can do this. You can chop your onion into fine chopped pieces, or you can slice it. I like more of a chopped relish, so I'm going to take these thin slices and just do that a step further and run my knife through them and just chop those guys up. So they're thinly sliced, but they're also chopped on top of that. This is good, especially good if you're planning on using this on hot dogs or brats, things like that. But the chopping and the size of everything that we put in here needs to be about the same size. So whatever you decide to do it, if you decide to slice it, chop it, slice and chop it like I'm doing, you just want to make sure that everything is going to be relatively uniform. And if it's not, guess what? That's okay. It doesn't matter. So I've got one medium-sized sweet onion here that we're doing, and we're just going to put him into that large bowl. And I'm going to go through that again with you in case you're doing this along with me. So first of all, I peeled the onion and cut both woody ends off of it. And if chopping onions doesn't make you cry, then you can do it the same way I did. If not, you can leave that woody end on, and that will help it not secrete so bad. So I have half the onion, which makes it a little easier to work with. And then I'm just taking my knife straight down and making relatively thin slices. So I'm going to take those thinly sliced onions and go a step further and just chop them into small pieces. Now normally I do all this prep stuff beforehand, but I think for this video it's already going to be lengthy, and sometimes it helps to see how to prep vegetables. So even if you've been doing this for a long time, sometimes watching other people prep vegetables kind of helps get you in the right state of mind to maybe do things differently and see how to do things safely or unsafely. All right, I have 2 red bell peppers. So the spice that I'm adding to this spicy relish is going to be in the cayenne pepper that we add later. Now, you can totally put a jalapeno in here if you wanted. It doesn't matter. Look, and my pepper's trying to have a baby. I love that. I love to cut in and find that Easter egg in there. So I'm just going to pop him out, because if I hit him with the knife, he'll bring out too many seeds. So I like to take my pepper and just carefully slice off one side, okay? And then that opens it up and I can see the seed ball. And then I save myself a whole lot of trouble. That way I don't have much membrane to lose by simply looking at where the membrane and the seed ball is and just cutting that out. Then if you waste not, want not, you can cut off that end piece too and the top piece if you wanted to use it. So then you have very little seed and very little membrane to remove. And most times you can just take your finger in there and just pop out what membrane is left. It takes a little time to do that, but it also saves a ton of time in cleanup. So that's one of the things by doing all this prep with you that I wanted you to be able to see. Same thing, I'm gonna slice the bell pepper up kind of thin and then take it and break it down into small bits with my knife. You could also do all this with a food processor, but I feel like chopping vegetables sometimes it's kind of like kneading bread dough or pie dough or anything like that. Sometimes if we just slow down and do those things by hand, it's kind of like meditation in a way. It brings me back to center, helps me enjoy the aromas of cooking as well as the colors, and I think it helps me enjoy the food that I eat a lot more as well, but that's just me. But if you like to cook, sometimes the whole act of prep is therapy in itself. Okay, so we've got you can do 4 to 5 good sized squash, and I just like to cut off the neck, the top of the neck and the ends just like that. We're not going to peel these guys. We're going to cut them right down the center, and then if they have a whole lot of seeds, then we just take our spoon and we just de-seed them. Just scrape them out just like you would any other kind of squash. Then I'm just going to take my knife and do the same thing that I've done with everything else and slice it into thin slices carefully. And then we're just going to chop it, run our knife through it until it's nice and fine. And we'll do that for all of our squash. And into the bowl with the peppers and onions, it shall go. Okay, so we got all of our squash broken down, and it ends up being a ton. So 4 to 5 medium-sized squash ends up being a lot of squash. I mean, it just really does, and that adds up pretty quick if you garden like I do. So now I'm just going to take a pair of tongs and just kind of toss the onion and the red bell peppers with the squash together just to kind of get them mixed. You can use a spoon. Now to this, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of canning or pickling salt. Now if yours is like mine, it's been sitting in the cabinet for a minute, then we're just going to sprinkle that right over the top. 3 tablespoons. And get that salt mixed in. Now what the salt does is, yes, it adds flavor, but because it's pickling or canning salt, and you can actually use sea salt for this too, it will, because squash is pretty watery, so it will take some of that water out of it and allow it to kind of drain. But it's a slow process, so this is the first leg of us canning squash. So we're going to cover this, and I like to just use a tea towel just to cover it, and then we're going to refrigerate it for probably about 6 to 8 hours. You can do it overnight, but then we will drain it, rinse it, and squeeze it in this tea towel to get all that excess moisture out before we start the canning process. So we'll be back. Don't go away. Okay, everybody, we're back. So we let our vegetables marinate in that canning salt for about 6 hours. You can go anywhere from 4 to 8. The longer, the better. It just really doesn't matter. You just want to allow them time to sit in that salt so that they can shake off any liquid that they may have. And what I did is I took a cheesecloth and laid it across my strainer. and then I rinsed everything off and then drained it. Then I picked up my cheesecloth, and I'm going to do it for you now, and just squeezed everything out. Any excess that you may have, we're going to squeeze it out because we don't want a ton of water in what we're about to do. So that should be good. We got most of the liquid out. So now we're going to start our relish process. So in a boiler, I have 1.5 cups of sugar, and I'm adding in 1.5 cups of apple cider vinegar, which I've just about gotten all in there. So we're gonna turn our heat on over about medium heat, and then we're just gonna allow that sugar to dissolve in the vinegar. Now I've already got my jars sterilized, and I've got my lids sitting in the hot water here over to the side. You can do this if you're an experienced canner. All this requires is a hot water bath canning method. You can also pack these in jars, just like we're going to do today, and store them in the refrigerator. It should last, you know, for a good little while in the refrigerator. But if you wanted to just do a hot water bath just to seal everything, you just fill up a big old pot and set your jars full down in it and allow it to, and use hot jars, jars that have already been sterilized in hot water like what we've done, so that your glass won't bust in your water bath. All right, so we've got all that sugar dissolved, so we're going to add in our other flavor components. We're going to add in some mustard seed, and for that we're going to add in about 1/2 of a tablespoon. And these are whole mustard seeds. Add those right in. Then we're going to add in 1 teaspoon of celery seed. And let me see if I can get my, I may have to use my 1/4 teaspoon measuring spoon to get in the jar, so we're going to need 2 of those. So 1/2 teaspoon of celery seed. And then, I know this seems strange, but a 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. And I like to freshly grind mine in. But that really adds a unique flavor to your relish, so it's good to have. And then a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, because these guys are a little spicy. So this is where all the spice will come from. You can do more, you can do less. So let's get that mixed in. Get everything nice and incorporated in our sugar and our vinegar. Now we're going to take our squash and onion and bell peppers and get them in the pool with everybody else. Get it all mixed in. And you have about equal parts of vegetable to liquid ratio here, which is what you're looking for. And isn't it pretty already? Now what we'll do is we'll bring this to a boil, and then we will lower the heat and allow it to simmer for about 20 minutes. Then once it has simmered for 20 minutes, then we'll carefully ladle this into our jars. I've got my jars done and I got my lids heating through. So what I'll do is I will place a towel on the counter and carefully ladle this into those jars. Then I'll just put my lids on finger tight, and one will keep, allow it to come to room temperature and that jar will seal. One will keep in the fridge for us to eat over the next week or two. And the other ones I will just finish in a water bath so that they'll be shelf stable for up to a year. Maybe one day if I have time, I can get on the wagon here and do a full canning video. But typically the canning that I do is just the things that just require simple water bath. Anything beyond that, I don't like to mess with. I leave that to you experts out there. But we're going to let this simmer, come to a boil and simmer for about 20 minutes, and then we'll pack some in a jar and we'll be back to taste it and show you what it looks like. So stay with us. Okay, we're back. We finished our 20-minute simmer time. Then I carefully filled my pint jars, and I'm going to show you how I pack them. So they're still very hot, so you have to be extra careful. But what I did is I have a canning funnel that I used, and I ladled this into the jars. And then I make sure that I have, so if you take your finger and you get it to that line, you want to leave that amount of headspace in there. So I took the liquid, the excess liquid that was in the pot, and kind of topped off both of these. This recipe makes 2 pints for me. And then I keep my lids warm, and I carefully, with a set of tongs, take my lid out and set it just on top of the jar. Then I take my clean, sanitized ring and just get it what we call finger tight. The heat in the jar will expand, and it will cause that lid to kind of go ahead and form a seal and tighten up on its own. But aren't they beautiful? Now, these, after they cool and they seal, and you can check them that they're sealed by this little dimple on the top. You hear it popping? That's not sealed. So what you're looking for ideally is for it not to do that. So after it sits and as it cools, and I like to just take a towel just in case and set them on the counter on a towel and let them kind of cool down just a bit, just to seal. And then you can do one of 2 things. You can do a simple hot water bath to seal them so that they're shelf stable for a year, or once they're completely cooled, typically overnight, I'll place them in the refrigerator and they'll last. They'll last a while. Just keep a check on them. But if they're sealed, so normally this recipe for me makes 2 pints. I keep one and I give one away. This is so much better than taking all that squash and just giving people the squash, because they can have the squash relish for several different things. They're good on peas, it's good on potato salad, it's good on hot dogs. Any way you would use relish, it is the way. So I have some here that's been cooling, and I wanted to give it a taste just so that we can say that we did. That's delicious. It's got that pickled that we're looking for, and that sort of sweet bite to it with just a hint of heat. This recipe is the perfect way to use up all that summer squash, and you can do this in the wintertime too, because regular summer squash can be found all year round. So this is a great recipe to have on hand. It makes a wonderful food gift, and we hope that you will try it. Just like all of our other recipes, it can be found over at thebutteredhome.com with a free printable recipe card for you. We hope that you'll give us a visit there, because we're really proud of our website, and that's where everything is all the time. If you want all of our videos in one convenient place, head over to YouTube and search for The Buttered Home, and when you find us, hit that subscribe button and ding the bell so that you can be notified when we drop new videos like this one. Also, make sure you're following us on all of our social channels. We have a really good time, and we want you with us no matter where we are. Whether we're making relish or homemade biscuits, we always have a really good time, and you don't want to miss a thing. From all of us here at The Buttered Home to your home, we sure love you guys. Bye.